So it's finally here. Captain America: The Winter Soldier is the latest entry into Marvel's cinematic universe, following on from the events of The Avengers, the first Captain America movie, Iron Man 3 and Thor: The Dark World. Now, this is a film that is literally only just out in England, and I don't believe it's yet out in America. So I'm going to do this review without giving any plot spoilers. Now, I will give you a very brief idea of what the film is about, but won't go into any specifics, so don't worry, you can watch this video and not have anything spoiled for you. So this film basically picks up with the character of Steve Rogers, or Captain America, played by Chris Evans, who is adjusting to life in the modern world after being defrosted prior to the Avengers, and is currently working for S.H.I.E.L.D. Now, while this is going on, he encounters an assassin slash borderline Terminator called the Winter Soldier, whose identity is unknown, and has to sort of fight him. They cross paths several times, and the film progresses from there, and that's literally all I can really say about the plot without spoiling anything, because this is a film you want to go into without knowing anything beforehand. It will definitely pay off tenfold. So I want to talk about what I really liked about the movie. Now, for fans of the comics, and not just Captain America comics, but Marvel comics in general, there are a lot of Easter eggs in this movie that you will pick up on that I think will probably pass normal moviegoers by. They name-check other Marvel heroes, other Marvel movies, and reference a lot of the wider cinematic universe. Although the film never feels bogged down in this, because a problem I had with Iron Man 2 way back when was that felt like a trailer for the Avengers, whereas this film, while S.H.I.E.L.D. has a massive presence in this movie, it doesn't feel like it bogs the film down. It's very much a Captain America movie, not a S.H.I.E.L.D. movie, so if you're worried about that having seen the trailers, you don't have to worry. The film is directed by Joe and Anthony Russo, who have done a couple of movies before now, but are most famous for directing episodes of Community, the absolutely terrific American sitcom. Now, this is their first sort of major, big budget action movie, and you would not believe it, really. The film is shot wonderfully. A lot of the action uses practical effects, which is something that, if you were familiar with my channel, you will know that I love. The action is nothing short of incredible. Now, I will say that the film starts off with an action scene in which Captain America and the Black Widow, played by Scarlett Johansson, storm a boat and rescue some hostages. That's all I'll say. That scene had me a little bit worried. There was quite a bit of shaky cam, and I thought, oh no, this is sort of Captain America through the Jason Bourne filter. But there are so many set pieces, action set pieces in this movie. Each one is unique in its own way. We have dogfights, car chases, fist fights, close combat, and each one is so just sort of different enough that the skills of the directors really shine through. The action is really well done. The use of practical effects grounds the action with a certain sense of reality and realism, although it never forgets that it's a comic book movie. The action's incredibly intense. When I say that, it's not so much particularly violent in terms of bloodshed, although there is some blood, but I'm quite surprised that this was rated 12A in England. I've got to say that the action is so intense, I'm surprised it didn't get a higher certificate. But that's something that I really enjoyed. It's probably the most intense action I've seen since the Nolan Batman movies. Now, that's not to say it's as good as those, but it gives you that sort of feeling, and I think because they have real, for example, real cars blowing up and stunt people getting thrown around, it makes you feel like you're in the moment and you become invested. Chris Evans is great once again as Steve Rogers. He really plays the part well now, like a comfortable pair of shoes, building on what was sort of the seeds that were sown in the Avengers. Who can he trust? Is he really happy with what S.H.I.E.L.D. are doing? They take those from the Avengers and really flesh that out, and that feeds into the plot of the movie, so he's great. Scarlett Johansson as the Black Widow is always fantastic. She's given a lot more screen time in this movie. She probably shares half the film with Steve Rogers, with Chris Evans. and she's great. She does really hold every scene she's in. The Black Widow, she gives the Black Widow a certain amount of complexity. They hint at the character's past that comic book fans will be familiar with, and she makes the Black Widow somewhat vulnerable. The banter between the two of them, the banter between Captain America and the Black Widow is funny, it's great, it's very well written, and the actors have great chemistry. Newcomers, you have Anthony Mackie as the Falcon, who's probably the surprise standout of the movie. The Falcon's actually a really interesting character. He's essentially a war veteran who runs a support group for ex-soldiers with PTSD and similar conditions. I found him to be really great, and he had a great rapport with the other actors as well. And then you have the Winter Soldier. Now, I'm not going to tell you who plays the Winter Soldier, just in case that, you know, risks spoiling anything, but the guy playing the Winter Soldier, I thought was great. They treat the Winter Soldier like a Terminator. He is an unstoppable force, an assassin who just is so intense in what he does, and like I said, almost unstoppable. The action scenes featuring him are actually borderline frightening. I can't imagine that little children watching this movie are going to enjoy it very much in those moments. They'll probably be watching from behind a cushion or whatever, but he was great. He had a great presence, and there are complexities to that character, so that was great. His performance was great. You have Robert Redford in it as a senator who really brings a certain presence to the movie as well. And now the directors and producers and everyone involved has said, you know, leading up to this film coming out, that it's essentially the tone is that of a 70s spy thriller, you know, not unlike All the President's Men, and having Redford in the movie really helps cement that tone. The film does really feel like a 70s conspiracy thriller, which is a genre of film I'm a big fan of, so I really enjoyed that. Speaking of genres of films, there are also references not only to other Marvel characters and the Marvel Universe, but other movies as well, movies in general. So if you're a fan of film, I think you'll get a lot out of this as well, of all the little Easter eggs. There are so many things I enjoyed about this movie, I feel like I'm gushing. Now, I do have a couple of caveats. The film itself, I think anybody who hasn't seen the preceding Marvel movies may struggle, especially the first Captain America and the Avengers. Those are the two that I think you will have had to see to get the most out of this. I do think you could enjoy it on a pure action movie level without having seen those, but a lot of what happens in the plot would probably just pass you by. The plot itself is very convoluted, but that's not to say that it's complicated. The plot is fairly simple, but because it's been sort of put through this 70s conspiracy thriller blender or filter, it does feel very convoluted, and it's a film that I think will take multiple viewings to pick up every little intricacy of the plot. But that's a minor gripe, because I loved that, and I thought if this, you know, warrants repeat viewings, that, if anything, that's a good thing. But that may turn some people off, so that's another caveat. The film, what you want to make sure you do as well, and not to give any spoilers, but make sure you stay until the very end of the credits. While we were sat there watching it, you know, credits started rolling, people left, and they missed the after-credit stings, as Marvel call them. There are two. There's one during the credits, one after the credits. Make sure you stay for those. Both are very interesting, at least I thought, anyway. So yeah, Captain America the Winter Soldier, where does it rank in terms of the other Marvel movies? It's one of the best. For me, it's up there with the best that are the Avengers and Iron Man 3. It's very close to being the best one, but I don't think I can say that after one viewing. It's a film that you'll need to see more than once to really get the most out of it. But I really highly recommend it. It's a great popcorn flick. It's a thinking man's Marvel movie to a certain extent. There's lots of Easter eggs in there for pre-existing comic book fans and movie fans. I do think that you'll struggle if you haven't seen the preceding movies, but there is something in there for everyone. I would highly recommend Captain America the Winter Soldier.